Hill climbing on the bike is one of those areas that people often struggle with. Not everybody, some people love going up and down hills, but most people, they kind of struggle when they get to a hill. Today we're going to talk about the best strategies for you to be a better climber. My name's Jasper Blake, over 20 years as a professional athlete, now running my own coaching business. We focus on biking, triathlon, running, and I'm excited to be here sharing my knowledge and experience with you. Your mental state going into a hill is really, really important. Now, how are you going to get better at climbing hills? Well, the first thing is to actually go and climb more hills. The more we do something, generally, the easier it is mentally to tackle. I remember this when we used to have a new course that we would go and try and get on the course first. And I always found that first run through of the course really daunting. I thought, oh my gosh, this course is so long. But the more I did it, it would get shorter in my head. Mentally, it became easier to manage. And I find the same thing true of hills. The more I do hill climbing, often the better off I am mentally with it. It doesn't necessarily mean that it makes me faster, but mentally it's much more easy to manage. And when it's easier to manage mentally, you'll be inclined to push yourself a little bit harder. You'll feel a little bit more confident on those hills. Actually getting out and doing those hills on a regular basis is really going to help your mental state around hills. Let's say you're a beginner cyclist and you're coming up to a climb that you know is going to take you 20 to 30 minutes. It's not just some short little thing that you're going to get up and over. That's a huge commitment. And as a beginner cyclist, that can feel pretty daunting. So here's a couple things I would suggest for you to do. The first is make sure you don't start the hill too fast. Put yourself in a nice, easy gear and take the first part of that climb really easy. Just spin your legs freely. A 20 to 30 minute climb is a long climb. So pacing yourself is really, really important. The other thing you can do on climbs is just break it up into small sections. So if you're looking up the road, just commit to riding to maybe the next corner in the road or maybe the next sign, something in the distance that's a little bit shorter than that whole 20 to 30 minutes, and just focus on those little chunks at a time. It's rare that a 20 to 30 minute climb is going to be straight up at the same grade, so you can think about that mentally as well. You're not going to have to be doing this straight incline that's the same incline for that whole time. There's going to be variations in the terrain that are going to help break it up mentally. Let's talk about seated versus standing climbing. Now, if you're a beginner cyclist, standing up on your bike might be kind of challenging. I've worked with a lot of beginner cyclists who really struggle with standing up on their bike. The first thing to think about when you're going to stand is that the bike should move underneath your body. A lot of people try and keep the bike in a rigid position and their body moves around the bike, but you actually want the bike to rock gently underneath your body. Should you sit or should you stand? Well, the answer is both. Sitting puts a little bit more stress or a little bit more pressure on the muscularity of your legs, right? So you have to do all the work with your muscles in the legs. But generally when we're sitting, the heart rate will stay a little bit lower. Now when we stand, it takes the pressure off the legs a little bit because we can use our body weight to rock back and forth and push those pedals around, but usually the heart rate will come up a little bit. So you have to kind of balance the two. What I encourage people to do is try and find a cadence or an RPM range that feels comfortable. So let's say you're putting it in your easiest gear for this hill and you want to try and keep the RPM between 70 and 80, which is getting on the lower side, but climbing, generally that's about where we end up. And let's say the hill kicks up a little bit, it gets a little bit steeper, we feel that cadence dropping. Well, that might be an opportunity to then stand because you can generate a little bit more power and get that cadence up again. And then when the hill kind of maybe flattens out a little bit more or gets a little less steep, you can sit back down. So it's really about practicing, going to a hill and trying seated, trying standing, seeing which one feels more comfortable on different grades. For me, it was mostly grade dependent. If it was steeper, usually I had to stand to generate a little bit more power. If it was a longer climb, we'd try and stay in the saddle or stay seated because it was generally a little bit more efficient. Heart rate didn't go up as high. So really, there's no one size fits all. As you become more experienced on the bike, you're gonna find that you make that decision pretty naturally based on the grade of the climb. Let's talk about the gear that you're going to choose when you're climbing. And by gear, I don't mean the outfit you're wearing. I mean the gearing on your bike. So if you've been riding for a little bit, even if you're a beginner, you'll know that you can switch gears on your bike. And generally when we climb, we want to make sure that the cadence or the RPM that we're spinning at, so the amount of times that foot is going around that rotation every minute, that's your RPM. We want to make sure that that doesn't get too low. So the first thing that's important is to make sure that you actually have the right gears on your bike. You have appropriate gears for the hill you're going to climb. This is especially important if you have an event coming up. The event coming up has lots of big steep climbs. You might want to head back to the bike shop and make sure that you actually have the right gearing for the course that you're going to do. Most bikes these days, are 10 speed, 11 speed, I think even 12 speed now. So you have lots of gear options. And when we're climbing, you really want to take advantage of the fact that you have all of those gears. Generally, we want to keep that cadence up, I don't want to say as high as we can, but you sure want to try and keep it above 70, even 80 RPM would be a nice little goal. You're better off the legs spinning freely, especially if it's a long climb, than that cadence dropping too low and you having to really grind it out. So making sure you really use those gears to allow the legs to keep spinning at an RPM that's not too aggressive, not too low. So gear selection, really, really important.
Join thousands of cyclists and gain access to hundreds of guided routines for strength training, mobility, and injury prevention. Click the link in the description for a 7-day free trial. Now, back to the video.
The strength training component, when we're talking about climbing on the bike, is really, really important. Obviously, if your body is stronger, you're going to be able to produce more when you push on those pedals, and that's going to help you get up the hill a little more quickly. Working on those muscles that help us generate that power so we can go uphill, very, very important. The other little thing though is some upper body exercises actually really help as well. When we stand on the bike, of course, we're using our upper body to rock that bike back and forth. And if you're a little bit stronger in the upper body, sometimes that helps a little bit with that momentum. Now, obviously, we don't want to become bodybuilders and get really huge up top, because then we have to carry that weight up the hill as well. But a little bit of strength in the upper body can also help. The other great thing that strength training does, especially if you have a nice balanced program, is it works on some of those other little muscles you might not think about. So obviously we think of glutes and quads, those big muscles, hamstrings, that help us turn those pedals around. But there's lots of other little muscles as those bigger ones start to get tired that can help us turn the pedals around, and you'll feel them. If you have a really smooth pedal stroke, or you're trying to kind of create power all the way around the pedal stroke, there's all these other little muscles that are involved, and if they're strong, if you've worked on them, it's really going to help you, especially in the latter stages of a longer climb. In conclusion, there's a bunch of tips there that are going to help you climb better. But the reality is, if you really want to get better at climbing hills on your bike, the best way to do that is actually to go out and climb hills on your bike. Even if it's your least favorite part of biking, commit to doing it even once a week with some hill reps, or maybe you're with a group and you know they're going to do a longer climb. Groups are always great because they'll help motivate you, they'll help get you up that hill. What you'll find is over time, you might start to enjoy them.
Subscribe to our channel to keep up to date with more mobility and strength tips to keep you pain-free.